Reincarnated with the strongest system. Chapter 551, A Petty God. You must be William, our oracle has been waiting for you. One of the gatekeepers guarding Amon's temple bowed her head in greeting. William nodded his head. I came to have an audience with His Excellency, Amon. We have already been notified. Please, follow us, Sir William. Thank you. The gatekeeper led William to one of the rooms where he must cleanse his body in preparation for his meeting with the god. He had already experienced this before in the Temple of Courage, so he obediently followed the etiquette that was needed to gain the oracle's approval to enter the inner temple, where Amon would communicate with his followers. Half an hour later, William stood in front of Amon's statue and closed his eyes. Slowly, but surely, he felt himself getting drowsy. He didn't resist it, and allowed himself to go to that place. The boundary of heaven and earth. So, you've come, a voice tinged with amusement said. William opened his eyes and came face to face with a silver-haired man sitting on a throne. The man's blue eyes looked amused, and his lips were curled up in a charming smile that would make any young lady blush in infatuation. I'm still more good-looking than him, William thought as he eyed the god in front of him. The smile on Amon's lips twitched because he was able to read William's thoughts. At first he was planning to give the half-elf an easy task due to his friendship with the lowly goddess, Lily. However, William's inner comment made him change his mind. Allow me to formally introduce myself, I am Amon, Amon said. A Grand Marquis of Hell, and one of the members of Ars Goetia. You don't need to introduce yourself, because I don't care about puny mortals who are not as handsome as me. Now, let's get down to the business at hand. Amon rested his chin on the back of his left hand as he eyed William from head to foot. I am going to give you 3 quests. Amon wasn't able to finish his words because William's thoughts flashed across his mind. This god must be delusional, thinking that he's more good-looking than me, William thought. Well, I better not say anything. I don't want to hurt the feelings of others. I've changed my mind. You need to finish 7 quests, Amon stated in an icy voice. I will lift the curse once you've completed them all. William nodded his head in agreement. He had already anticipated that the god would make things difficult for him, so he wasn't surprised about the number of quests that Amon had given him. This is your first quest. Amon raised his hand and a scroll appeared on William. Return to me once it's done. I have other things to do. Goodbye. Amon didn't even wait for William to ask him any questions before sending him back to the temple. Clearly, he didn't have any good impression of the half-elf that criticized his good looks. William opened his eyes and looked at the scroll in his hand. He was very displeased at how Amon treated him. If there was a place where he could file a complaint, he would definitely give Astrid's twin brother a 1-star review. The half-elf opened the scroll and read its contents. Amon's first quest. Conquer the 51st floor of the Tower of Babylon. The 51st floor of the Tower of Babylon currently had no owners. Your mission is to gain complete control of this floor, and solve the mystery as to why it had remained unconquered for over 1,000 years. P.S. If you like to know more details about the Tower of Babylon, feel free to ask the headmaster of Silverwind Academy. I knew it, William muttered. Looks like Amon intended to make my life difficult from the get-go. William had no idea where the Tower of Babylon was. However, one thing was clear. No one had been able to conquer its 51st floor for thousands of years, which meant that its difficulty rating was very high. I need to return to the academy and have a talk with the headmaster, William thought. Fortunately, Amon was a bit considerate and gave me a hint as to who to ask for information. After giving an appropriate donation to Amon's temple, the half-elf hastily returned to Silverwind Academy, to find the answers to his questions. Meanwhile at the Temple of the 10,000 Gods. That brat is quite annoying. Amon complained to his twin sister, Astrid, who was currently sipping a cup of tea in her garden. I was planning to make things easy for him, but he got on my nerves. HMP. Let's see if he can clear the near impossible quest that I gave him. Astrid sighed as she placed the teacup back on the table. Near impossible? Just what kind of quest did you give the boy? The goddess of female knights had taken a hands-off policy when it came to the quests that Aemon would give to William. Ian, and Isaac were her devout followers. Naturally, she only wanted the best for them. She was willing to give William her blessings to become their lovers, but that would only happen once he had completed her twin brother's quests. Aemon chuckled as he gave his sister a devilish smile. The mission I gave him was to clear the 51st floor of the Tower of Babylon. Haha. Don't worry, I will show mercy on him once he returns to the temple and begs me to change the first quest that I gave him. Astrid frowned. She was aware of the reason why no one had conquered the 51st floor of the tower. Long ago, when the world was still young, the gods decided to create a tower for their entertainment. Similar to a dungeon, each floor of the dungeon was a stage that needed to be cleared in order to advance to the next floor. The one who was able to clear any of its floors would become the owner of the floor. There were even some powerful families in the central continent that had migrated their entire clans on the floors that they had claimed as their own. This tower was located at the very center of the central continent, and was considered to be the greatest challenge for humanity. Similar to the Atlantis dungeon, the Tower of Babel had 100 floors. However, for over 1,000 years, the exploration had stopped at the 51st floor. Anyone who dared to challenge it had never been seen again. After losing so many prodigies and talented individuals in the 51st floor, the empires, kingdoms, and sects prohibited their people from challenging it again. Of course, there were still people who wanted to make their names known to the world, but after entering the mysterious floor, they were never heard from again. You're so petty, Aemon, Astrid said as she eyed her brother. What would you do if the boy died on that floor? Aemon shrugged. If he dies, then he dies. Don't worry. If that happens, I will lift the curse on your devout followers. I'm sure that they will forget about him in time and fall in love with someone else. Lady Astrid smirked before emptying her cup of tea. Her brother was right. Although her followers would be hurt after William died, they will get over it in time. The goddess didn't believe that the half-elf would be able to complete the quest that her brother had given William. Seated on a throne made from black obsidian, a primordial goddess observed Astrid from afar. She had overheard Astrid's discussion with Aemon and simply giggled at their foolishness. Near impossible doesn't mean impossible, the primordial goddess mused as she looked at the projection of the red-headed teenager in front of her. Show me, young Pendragon. Are you really the master of your fate? Are you really the captain of your soul? The primordial goddess smiled as she petted the head of the black phoenix that was resting beside her throne. She was looking forward to seeing William's growth, and the day when they would meet at the crossroads of fate. Chapter 552, Are you planning to commit suicide? Chiffon hugged the gauntlets that William had given her while she slept. The little girl really liked her new gauntlets, and was even touched when she learned that the one that forged them was her big brother. If not for the fact that the academy had forbidden its students from carrying their weapons on their bodies, Chiffon would have worn her gauntlets during class as well. Ian and Princess Sidonie exchanged a glance as they looked at the pink-haired girl that was sleeping on William's bed. Ever since William left, she stopped going to class and spent her free time sleeping on his bed. Ian sighed. She's like a little puppy that is waiting for her master's return. Princess Sidonie pressed her palm on her forehead as she looked at the little girl who had been entrusted to her by William. Aemon's temple is located at the north of the empire, Princess Sidonie said. The temple itself is located in a valley that had been closed off from the public. According to my estimate, it will take 2 days to get there even if he used teleportation gates. Then, he should have arrived there at this time. Yes. We will probably see him after 2 days. Ian shook her head as she looked at the corner of the room, where a spear was leaning on the wall. No, he will be arriving shortly, Ian said with confidence. Princess Sidonie was about to ask what Ian meant when suddenly, a brief flash of light illuminated the room. "I'm back, did the two of you miss me?" William asked as he pulled Princess Sidonie into his embrace and gave her a kiss on the cheek. Ian transformed into her true form, and allowed William to give her a kiss as well. After kissing his two lovers, William noticed the pink-haired girl who was sleeping on his bed and smiled. "It seems that she really liked the weapon I made for her," William commented. "She's even using it as a hug pillow." William was about to poke the little girl's cheeks when Princess Sidonie grabbed hold of his hand and pulled him away. "How were you able to return that fast from the temple?" Princess Sidonie asked. "Also, what did His Excellency, Aemon say?" William grinned and told Princess Sidonie the trick on how he could travel from one point to the other instantly. The beautiful girl listened attentively to William's explanation. She then realized that it was the same trick that her lover used, to escape from Enru and the elves, when he escaped from the capital city of the Anisha dynasty. "That's amazing," Princess Sidonie commented after William finished his explanation. Ash, who was listening from the side, held William's hand and asked the question that had been on her mind ever since the half-elf returned. "Did you manage to talk with His Excellency, Aemon?" Ash inquired. William nodded as he summoned the scroll that the god had given him. Ash and Princess Sidonie, Morgana, looked at the scroll and read its contents. "Conquer the 51st floor of the Tower of Babylon." Princess Sidonie frowned. She was not a native of the central continent and was not aware of its landmarks. Ash was on the same boat, and the two looked at William for answers. "Sorry, I also don't know." William shrugged. "I returned as soon as I could, so I could talk to the headmaster about it. Look after Chiffon for me. I'll be right back." William bid his goodbye to his two lovers before leaving his room in haste. Although it didn't show on his face, William was actually quite anxious about the mission that had been assigned to him. Gilbert sighed for the umpteenth time as he read the ancient scroll in his hands. "Vault of the Vanished Warlord," Gilbert muttered. "Why must you be there of all places?" The headmaster of the academy was not afraid to go to dangerous places in order to search for the thing that he was looking for. However, the 51st floor of the Tower of Babylon was an exception. The most powerful families in the continent had formed joint exploration groups in order to conquer the mysterious floor of the tower. However, all of them had failed. For as long as he could remember, no one had been able to bring back any news of what kind of secrets the 51st floor held. There had been rumors flying around, but none of them were credible. While Gilbert was feeling depressed, he heard a knock on the door of his office. "Who is it?" Gilbert asked. "Headmaster, it is me, William," William replied through the door. "There is something important that I need to discuss with the headmaster. Can I come in?" Gilbert rubbed his forehead because a troublesome character had come. He was still dealing with the aftermath of William's confrontation with the mercenary group from the Demon Continent and it was giving him a headache. "Come in," Gilbert said as he fixed his posture. He was still the headmaster of Silverwind Academy and he needed to look presentable in front of his students. William walked in the door and sat after the headmaster had given him permission to do so. "I thought you were supposed to go to Aemon's temple?" Gilbert asked. "Didn't His Majesty give you permission to go?" William nodded. "I just returned from the temple because there is something important that I need to discuss with the headmaster." "Something important?" Gilbert eyed the red-headed teenager with a curious gaze. "Go on. What is it that you want to ask me?" William then narrated a made-up story about receiving a vision in Aemon's temple about going to the 51st floor of the Tower of Babel. Gilbert, who had just drank a mouthful of tea, spat it on William's face after hearing his story. "Why, you can't be serious." Gilbert pointed at the half-elf that had been drenched by his tea. "Are you planning to commit suicide?" "Boy, if this is a joke, it is not a funny one." William wiped his face with a handkerchief as he looked at the stuttering headmaster that seemed to have lost his composure. He was very tempted to get back at the old man, but since he needed some information, he decided to just pay him back another day. Headmaster, like I said, it is the vision that I saw on Aemon's temple, William explained after cleaning and drying himself with magic. The headmaster is the most knowledgeable person that I know of in the academy. This is why I came to you for answers. Gilbert organized his thoughts as he looked at William with a serious expression. Are you planning to go there? Gilbert asked. What did the vision tell you? William had already anticipated that the headmaster would ask him these kinds of questions, so he had prepared a backstory beforehand. The vision told me that I needed to go there, William replied. I don't know what I will find on the 51st floor, but it is important that I go there. It is a revelation given to me by His Excellency, Aemon. William thought that if he just used Aemon's name, everything would become more believable. Although Gilbert still had his doubts, he told the red-headed teenager everything he knew about the temple. The headmaster of the academy even gave William the translated scroll of the Vault of the Vanished Warlord, which was said to be hidden somewhere on the 51st floor. After hearing Gilbert's explanation, the half-elf's anxiousness eased up a bit. Instead of feeling afraid, the half-elf became very curious about what was hidden on the mysterious floor of the tower. When the headmaster mentioned about the Vault of the Vanished Warlord, William's hand became very itchy. He was already looking forward to the treasures that he would soon loot from the 51st floor of the Tower of Babylon. Chapter 553, I promise that I'll be a good girl, so please, don't leave me behind. Part 1. On the same day that he had returned to the academy, William had dinner with Ian, Princess Sidonie, and Chiffon. When the little girl found out that her big brother had come back, her liveliness and appetite returned in full. After dinner, William finally told them about his upcoming travel towards the center of the central continent, where the Tower of Babylon was located. William didn't lie to them and told them the difficulty of the quest that was given to him by Aemon. He even added all the information that the headmaster of Silverwind Academy had told him. After hearing everything he had to say, the three girls' expressions became pale. Fortunately, they already finished eating dinner. If not, the three girls would have certainly lost their appetite after hearing William's explanation. You have to make it back no matter what, Morgana said after hijacking Princess Sidonie's body. Darling, you still haven't given me your babies. You can't die on me. I'm too young to become a widow. The usually naughty girl looked at William with a pleading gaze. Morgana held William's hand with both of her hands, as if she didn't want him to leave her. The half-elf felt touched because it was very rare for Morgana to show this expression to him, whenever they were together. This just proved how worried she was about his upcoming departure. I promise, I will return to you safely, William replied as he gently squeezed her hand. You're right. I still haven't given you my babies. There is no way I can allow that to happen. Wouldn't it be my loss if you get married to someone else? That's right. If you don't want me to cheat on you, make sure you return as fast as possible. Okay. I will return as soon as I can. I promise. Ian looked at William with a determined gaze. Since he was already going to a dangerous place, she decided to follow him. I'm going with you, Ian said. I can't let you go alone. William firmly shook his head. No. You can't come with me. Why? Are you afraid that I will hold you back? That's not it. I need you to stay with Sidonie. Without me around, only you will be able to help her when her divinity runs amok. But. William reached out to hold Ian's hand and squeezed it softly. Don't worry. I will make it possible for you to enter the Thousand Beast domain even when I'm away. Is that even possible? Ian inquired. If it was really possible, then she could meet with William anytime. Of course, it's possible, William replied. Sidonie can already do it by using the collar of wisteria. Ian looked at the beautiful princess, and the latter nodded her head in acknowledgement. Because of the many things that happened, William had forgotten to tell Ian about the additional function that he had added in the collar of wisteria. William knew that Ian would definitely insist on coming with him to the tower because of how dangerous it was. If possible, he didn't want to bring her with him. This was why he decided to ask the system for help, and allow Ian to visit the Thousand Beast domain, whenever she missed him. Chiffon, who had no idea what they were talking about, simply listened to their conversation. The days where William was away were the most depressing days she experienced in her life. When she no longer had to worry about how to keep the overwhelming hunger at bay, the little girl had more free time to live as a normal girl. To be honest, it was very rare for Chiffon to find happiness in life. This was why she was unable to smile. Her default expression was always a frown, due to her constant worry about what she was going to eat next. Now that she had met William, Ian, and Princess Sidonie, her life became more colorful. Sometimes, Chiffon wondered if she was living inside a dream. If this is a dream, I don't ever want to wake up again, Chiffon thought as she looked at William, who was busy coaxing Ian and Princess Sidonie. Feeling left out, the little girl decided to catch William's attention by asking him a question. "Big brother, when are we going to leave?" Chiffon inquired. "I don't have much luggage with me, so we can leave anytime." William, Ian, and Princess Sidonie all looked at the pink-haired girl at the same time. "We?" William looked at Chiffon with a dumbfounded expression. "Sorry, Chiffon. I will not be taking you with me either." Chiffon tilted her head in confusion. "You're not taking me?" "No," William answered. "Stay here in the academy with Ian and Sidonie. They will look after you while I'm away." Chiffon's eyes clouded over when she realized that William didn't intend to bring her along with him. According to her big brother, it would take a month to reach the Tower of Babylon from the Creator Empire. But that was only the duration of the travel. William didn't know how long he would be staying inside the tower, and this was also Ian's and Princess Sidonie's concern. The half-elf had only been away for 2 days, and yet, Chiffon felt that there was a gaping hole in her heart. She felt so empty inside while William was away to visit Amon's temple. If William were to be away for more than a month, Chiffon had no idea what was going to happen to her. A tear fell, followed by another. The pink-haired girl looked at her big brother with blurry eyes as the pain inside her chest intensified. "Big brother, you're going to leave me?" Chiffon asked. "You're going to leave me alone?" William hurriedly stood up from his seat and went beside the little girl to wipe her tears away. For some reason, William was very weak to little children. Although Chiffon was older than him, her current appearance was similar to Brianna, whom William had treated as his own little sister, back in the southern continent. "You will not be alone," William replied. "You will be with Ian and Sidonie. They will look after you." Chiffon covered her face with her hands as she sobbed uncontrollably. No matter what William said, no matter what he promised, her tears didn't stop falling. What was worse was that the moment she started crying, her stomach also started grumbling. Although she had just eaten dinner, Chiffon's hunger came back, and it came back with a vengeance. The little girl had lost control of her emotions, and her powers. "Host! Get away from Chiffon! Her divinity is going to activate." "No! Scratch that! Bring her to the dungeon of Atlantis instead! Hurry! If you are a second late, this whole academy, along with all its students, will be devoured." Chapter 554, I promise that I'll be a good girl, so please, don't leave me behind. Part 2. William teleported inside the 10th floor of Atlantis and brought Chiffon in his seaside villa. A few seconds later, the little girl's divinity went berserk. Before her reasoning had been taken over completely, Chiffon punched William's stomach with all her might, sending the half-elf flying hundreds of meters away from her location. "Big brother, I'm sorry," Chiffon muttered before she lost consciousness. "Please. Run away." That was when William saw firsthand what the power of the 7 deadly sins could do, once they lost control. Chiffon opened her mouth wide, and a crackling sound was heard. It was as if space itself was being distorted and the air around her trembled. A series of notifications sounded inside William's status page warning him of the danger that was about to come. Host. Please hurry. Leave this place. Everything on this floor will be devoured by chiffon. William gritted his teeth as he looked at the unconscious girl, whose tears were still streaming down the side of her face. Suddenly, the ground rose from under her feet and flew towards her mouth, to be eaten. The sea churned and charged towards the shore as if they were being compelled by some unknown law that they couldn't fight against. Everything within 1,000 meters of chiffon was being devoured, and that range was slowly increasing by the second. William kept backing away, but the power of gluttony that was akin to a black hole had instantaneously increased its might. The half-elf suddenly found himself within the range of chiffon's devouring ability, and was helplessly pulled in her direction. Quick shot war art, fusion form. William roared as he summoned his wooden staff and pointed it at chiffon's opposite direction. Blitzer railgun. William merged with his staff and flew away. At least, that was what was supposed to happen, but reality was different. The wooden staff only managed to travel for 5 meters, before it stalled and stayed in place. Slowly, but surely, it was being pulled towards chiffon's small mouth that was capable of devouring entire cities in the central continent. It broke William's heart to see chiffon in such a condition, but there was nothing he could do. System, put a tracker on chiffon. I want to monitor her condition. Understood. A beam of light shot from the wooden staff and hit chiffon's forehead. After successfully planting the tracker, William left the 10th floor of Atlantis and returned to the first floor in haste. He knew that if he stayed, he would just be devoured by the power of gluttony that had gone berserk. After reaching safety, William immediately asked the system to allow him to see what was happening in real time. The system complied, and shared the view around chiffon. What he saw was complete, and utter darkness. If not for the fact that he could still hear the faint devouring sound in the background, he might have thought that the tracker was not working. Even the artificial lighting on the 10th floor had been sucked away completely. The growling sounds of chiffon's stomach could be heard amidst the darkness. William doubted that his lollipops would be able to fight against this divinity that had run out of control. All he could do was wait. An hour passed. 2 hours passed. More hours passed. William sat cross-legged as he continued to monitor chiffon's condition. After a day inside the dungeon, the growling sound stopped. The system scanned the surroundings, and chiffon's body several times, before giving William the go signal that everything was fine. William returned to that dark, and empty world. Even his eyes that could see past the darkness couldn't see anything inside the 10th floor of Atlantis. Light, William said softly, and several balls of light illuminated the surroundings. It was then when he saw her. Standing at the center of the destruction that she had caused, with tears still streaming down the sides of her face. William wrapped his arms around the girl who followed him around, and hugged her tight. "Big brother, please, don't leave me," Chiffon said weakly as she buried her head on William's chest. She wanted to hug him back, but she was feeling very weak right now. If not for the fact that William was hugging, and supporting her body, she might have already collapsed on the ground. "I promise that I'll be a good girl, so please, don't leave me behind." "Okay. I won't leave you behind. I promise." As if waiting for that answer, Chiffon closed her eyes and slept. She had already reached her limit physically, and emotionally. William carried the pink-haired girl in a princess carry, before teleporting to his villa in the Thousand Beast domain. Ian and Princess Sidonie were there and had been waiting for any news about Chiffon. William had ordered everyone to leave the dungeon of Atlantis, just in case Chiffon's devouring ability broke through the spatial floors of the dungeon. Fortunately, it didn't, and only one floor was sacrificed to the little girl's devouring ability. Princess Sidonie and Ash looked at the disheveled pink-haired girl and felt an ache in their chests. Chiffon had become very dear to them, and seeing her like that broke their hearts. "Please, clean her up," William said as he handed Chiffon to Ian. "Let her rest here in the villa for now. Although the possibility is low, a relapse could occur. We'll keep her here just in case. Ian nodded in understanding and transformed into her true form before going to the bathroom. Princess Sidonie walked towards William and gave him a hug. If someday, I will also lose control of my powers, make sure to trap me in one of the floors of your dungeon. That way, I will not be able to hurt anyone. William's body stiffened. He wanted to assure her that such a day would not come, but he couldn't say it. In a few days, he would be leaving the Creator Empire to go to the Tower of Babylon. Although they could meet in the Thousand Beast domain, this was only a temporary fix to the problem. William shuddered at the thought of Princess Sidonie losing control of her powers. I will find a way, William said as he hugged the beautiful princess in his arms. I promise. I will find a way. We believe you, Princess Sidonie replied. I and Morgana believe in you. William sighed as he closed his eyes. He could still hear Chiffon's pleading words inside his mind. After seeing her in that state, and the reason why it happened, William already knew what he needed to do. He only hoped that at the end of their journey, he would find a way to help Chiffon have better control of her divinity. That way, she would no longer need to suffer from the heartbreak of devouring the things that were important to her. Chapter 555, Let's talk about you and her wedding. When Chiffon opened her eyes, she found herself in an unfamiliar room. Fortunately, there was someone familiar to her inside the room, and it put her heart at ease. William was sitting at the side of the bed and holding her hand. The moment their eyes met, Chiffon had the strong urge to run away. If not for the fact that she still couldn't move her body, she might have already bolted out of the room in haste. How are you feeling? William asked with a smile. Exhausted, Chiffon answered. But, aside from that, I'm good. William nodded his head as he asked the system to run a diagnostic scan on Chiffon's body to ensure that nothing was wrong with her. Chiffon's vital signs are all normal. The possibility of a relapse is 0.001%. Thank you, system. Chiffon couldn't remember much of what happened to her. There were lapses in her memory, and she wasn't sure if what she saw was real or only a dream. The last thing she remembered was being enclosed in William's embrace, and hearing his promise to not leave her alone. The two stared at each other for a full minute without saying a word. The awkward silence was unnerving, and it made Chiffon anxious. She was about to say something when suddenly, a growling sound reverberated inside the room. Chiffon's body stiffened because she thought that it was her stomach that was making a sound. She had just eaten an entire dungeon floor, so her hunger would be sated for at least 2 days. That was my stomach, William said to assure the panicking girl on the bed. For some reason, seeing Chiffon's flustered expression tickled his heart. William took out a basket of sandwiches from his storage ring, and offered one of them to Chiffon. The little girl shook her head, and politely declined the sandwich. The half-elf didn't insist because food was a sensitive topic right now. He just ate in silence, using his right hand, while his left hand held the pink-haired girl's hand. After eating his fill, William returned the basket to his storage ring, and laid down beside Chiffon. Good night. William yawned as he closed his eyes to sleep. He had been up for nearly 2 days, and he was already very sleepy. He hadn't eaten anything, and only drank water during his vigil. For some reason, he didn't have any appetite after seeing Chiffon's berserked state. 2 minutes later, William's deep sleeping breaths reached Chiffon's ears. The little glutton stared at his peaceful sleeping face, as if embedding it in her memory. She had wanted to ask William a few things, but the latter had slept before she could even ask anything. Chiffon sighed as she tried to move her body towards William. Although her body felt heavy, the need to feel someone's warmth fueled her determination. More than anything else, she hated being alone. Now that someone was sleeping next to her, she decided to move closer to assure herself that what she was seeing was reality and not a dream. Wake up, Mr. Lollipop. A teasing voice reached William's ears, which made him open his eyes abruptly. The first thing she saw was a lady. A very fat lady. She was sitting on a small chair that creaked every time her body moved slightly. William couldn't help but think that the chair would break at any time, which would make the lady fall on the ground, unable to get up due to her body size. "You're thinking a very rude thing," the fat lady snorted. "Don't you know that girls are very delicate? You already have 3 lovers and you still don't understand this fact." The fat lady opened a red fan and started fanning herself. Her action made the chair she was sitting on creak dangerously, which made William's teeth itch. The half-elf forcefully tore his attention from the chair and looked at the lady in front of him. Since he had been around the company of gods during his visit to the temple, it was easy for him to identify the fat lady as a goddess. The only question was, who was she? "You really are too skinny," the fat lady commented as he eyed William from head to foot. "I suggest that you add at least 170 pounds to your weight." The corner of William's lips twitched when he heard the comment of the goddess. "I'll take that into consideration, Your Excellency," William said as he gave the lady before her a respectful bow. "My name is William. May I know, Her Excellency's exalted name?" The fat lady chuckled, matching the creaking of the chair where she sat. "It has been a while since I introduced myself to a mortal, so forgive me for not introducing myself first. My name is Adephagia, and I am the goddess of gluttony." William felt the last piece of the puzzle fall in place as he heard the name of the goddess in front of him. The half-elf decided to remain silent and wait for Adephagia to tell him the reason why she had brought him to the boundary of heaven and earth. He had been here not long ago when he met with Aemon, Astrid's twin that had given him an unreasonable quest from the get-go. The goddess smiled and nodded her head in appreciation. She had already read what William was currently thinking, so she decided to get straight to the point. "First of all, I would like to thank you for taking care of my daughter," Adephagia said softly. "My daughter has been through many tough times, and although her fate is filled with suffering, as her mother, I can't help but weep for her. A/N, all the gods of the 7 deadly sins call their personifications in the mortal realm daughters. Yet, all of them are born as girls. I'm just going to clarify things in case you guys are thinking of something else." Adephagia started to dab her eyes with a handkerchief as if to wipe away the invisible tears that weren't there. William played along and nodded his head in understanding. "Chiffon is like a little sister to me," William stated. "It breaks my heart to see her hurting." "I see." Adephagia grinned. "Now, let's talk about you and her wedding." What wedding?" "Sorry," I stuttered. "I meant to say let's talk about you and her well-being. Don't you know? Having a healthy body and mind will lead you to greatness." The goddess laughed with a ho-ho-ho, like a second-rate villainess, which made William worry about the future. Lady Eros had asked him to take care of her daughters, while she was training him in her palace. The goddess of lust didn't imply anything aside from taking care of her daughters, but the end result was having Princess Sidonie and Morgana as his lover. Seeing that the goddess of gluttony had appeared in front of him, William had a nagging feeling that he was about to become the groom in a shotgun wedding. "Oi, don't think too highly of yourself," Adephagia closed her fan and pointed it in William's direction. "You're too skinny for my lovely daughter. I will only allow you to become her lover if you increase your weight by 180 pounds. William felt that he was about to have a migraine. Earlier the goddess mentioned that he needed to add 170 pounds to his weight, now she changed it to 180 pounds. He had a feeling that the goddess of gluttony would continue to increase his weight as they continued their chat. Where was I? Oh yeah, let's talk about you and her wedding. Well-being. Adephagia clicked her tongue before opening her fan to cover half of her face. "You are going to the Tower of Babel, right?" William nodded his head in affirmation. "Yes." "Very well, allow me to give you a gift." The goddess of gluttony threw 2 small boxes in William's direction, and the latter caught it by reflex. "The red box is for Chiffon, and the pink one is for you," Adephagia stated. You don't need to know what is inside the box because you wouldn't be able to open it even if you used all of your strength. Just know that the box will open at the right time. Hold on to them for now, and keep them safe. Do you understand? Yes, Your Excellency, William replied. Good. Now go back. Adephagia made a gesture to shoo William away. Make sure to take care of my daughter. If you don't, I'll sit on your head. Let's see if you can bully her again after that. Even in his spirit form, William could feel beads of sweat forming on his head. If the fat goddess really sat on his head, it would easily be crushed like a watermelon getting run over by a tank. Chapter 556, To Infinity and Beyond. William and Ash laid on the bed, hugging each other. The gems on their chests glowed in synchronized rhythm, as the system bestowed Ash the ability to instantly teleport to the Thousand Beast domain. This was not an easy thing to do because it required 50,000 God points to make it possible. William didn't mind spending that much because it allowed Ash to have the means to visit the Thousand Beast domain anytime she wanted. William had already told Ash and Princess Sidonie that they could also teleport to his domain if their lives were in danger. Their safety was his priority, so he didn't mind spending God points to ensure their safety. God points, 4,250,042. If only he had known about this feature before leaving the southern continent, he would have definitely made it so Wendy and EST could drop by his domain to come see him. After half an hour, the modification of their gems had been successfully completed. It was a very delicate process, but thanks to the system's ability, it went as smoothly as planned. With this I can see you anytime that I want, Ash said as she stared at William's eyes. Thank you. Why are you thanking me? William asked as he kissed her forehead. I like having you around. If not for the fact that I'm worried about Sidonie being alone, I would have also taken you along with me. Ash smiled as she buried herself in William's embrace. Aside from William, only she had the ability to keep Princess Sidonie's divinity from going berserk. She and the princess had seen what had happened to their beach villa in the dungeon of Atlantis. What was once a beautiful floor was now a dark place, devoid of anything. According to the system, the floor would revert to how it was in the past. However, it would take at least a year for that to happen. Naturally, there were ways to hasten up the process, like fixing it using the dungeon settings. However, for that to happen, William needed to finish conquering it first. The progress in conquering the dungeon had halted, on the 52nd floor because the monsters were quite powerful. Each group had a dozen individuals, and there would always be a millennial beast, and 2 centennial beast among them. However, it didn't end there. Once the teams engaged them, the red-eyed Razor Naga, millennial beast, would shout a warcry that would call the other groups to come to their location. William and his party would then face at least 4 millennial beast, 8 centennial beast, and 36 Class A monsters. This would have been easily dealt with if William was able to use his heroic avatar. But, for some strange reason, his heroic avatar was disabled on the 52nd floor of Atlantis. This left him no choice but to allow his herd and legion to get stronger first, before challenging the floor again. Darling, are you done? Morgana asked. Yes, we just finished, William replied. What's the problem? There's no problem, Morgana stated. I just managed to put Chiffon to sleep, so I can join you and Ash. Before William could even reply, the door of the room opened and a beautiful girl with golden eyes walked towards the bed with a sensuous smile. You're going to leave tomorrow, so you need to at least do some maintenance, Morgana said as she sat on the bed. It has been a while since the 3 of us did it. You're not going to get any sleep tonight, darling. The next day. Big brother, what's wrong? Chiffon asked as she looked up at the sleepy-looking William. William yawned before patting the little girl's head. Nothing. I just wasn't able to get much sleep last night. Chiffon tilted her head in confusion, but she decided not to pry. The 2 of them would be leaving today, and she was feeling quite excited about traveling alongside William. Ah, there you are, William, the headmaster of the academy, Gilbert, appeared on the gates of the academy. I'm glad I managed to see you before you left the academy. William had notified him beforehand that he would take a leave from his studies to go to the Tower of Babylon. The headmaster wanted to accompany him as well, but he was currently too tied up with the school activities that had been scheduled. He also had to supervise the preparation of the tournament that would happen in less than 2 months. This tournament held a special meaning to the Creator Empire because this decided the rankings of their top prodigies. Those who were in the top 10 would be given resources in order to further increase their ranks. Those who weren't able to get to the top 10, but had shown great potential would be sponsored by the Empire as well. This was a way to motivate the young generation to strive for excellence, which would further boost the strength of the Creator Empire in the future. What's wrong, Headmaster? William asked. Do you perhaps want to tell me to buy you a souvenir? Well, that is also a good idea. But, I came here to ask you a favor. I'm all ears. Gilbert took out a scroll from his storage ring and gave it to William. The half-elf spread it open and saw what seemed to be an exquisite, green flower brooch, with a sparkling jewel at its center. This is called the Brooch of Emerald Desire, Gilbert explained. It was said that it was among the priceless treasures that can be found in the vault of the vanished warlord. If you are able to get the opportunity to retrieve it, I am willing to pay a hefty sum for it. If I see it then I'll trade it to you, Headmaster, William replied. But, if I don't? No hard feelings, okay? There is a possibility that I might get trapped there for an indefinite period of time. Gilbert nodded in understanding. To be honest, he didn't want William to go to the tower to risk his life. He had already done his best to convince him, but the latter was determined to go. Since that was the case, he decided to give him as much support as he could and prepared the necessities he would need in his journey. Very well, may the wind be always at your back, and the light shine upon your way, Gilbert placed his hand on William's shoulder. Also, look after Chiffon for us. You don't have to worry about what the other side is going to say. We will handle that for you. The old man lowered his head and whispered something in William's ears. If it becomes dangerous, do your best to escape the floor, Gilbert whispered. You don't need to run a fool's errand. Life is very precious, do not waste it on trivial things. William nodded his head, and didn't make any further comments. I'll come back as soon as I can, Headmaster. Goodbye for now. Goodbye, Headmaster, Chiffon said as she bowed her head. Thank you for letting me stay in the academy. Gilbert looked at Chiffon with gentle eyes as he patted her head. Sorry, child. We have been unfair to you. Be careful on your journey, and come back safely. We will be waiting for your return. Thank you, Headmaster. You're welcome. William held Chiffon's hand, as both of them walked out of the gate of the academy. They had already said their goodbyes to Ash and Princess Sidonie, who were currently sleeping in their rooms. Just like William, both of them were quite exhausted due to their night of skinship. Come out, Raiden, William ordered. A black Kylan who was 3 meters tall, and 5 meters long, appeared in front of William. It was radiating the presence of a millennial beast, and Chiffon wasn't able to stop herself from clinging to William's arm. It's fine, he just looks scary, but he's harmless. William patted Chiffon's head before lifting her up to ride on the Kylan's back. After the little girl was secured in place, William sat behind her and wrapped his arms firmly on her waist. Let's go, Raiden, William ordered. To infinity and beyond. Gilbert watched as the black Kylan rose in the air and flew towards the east. They were headed to the first town that would allow them to use the teleportation gates that were specially designated for those who planned to go to the Tower of Babylon. The headmaster of Silverwind Academy didn't know if he would see the half-elf again. However, after observing William for a few months, he realized that the boy seemed to have the tendency to make the impossible possible. Chapter 557, Fate really knows how to crack a joke. The black Kylan's body soared towards the sky and flew above the clouds. Chiffon looked in awe at the surroundings because this was the first time she had flown in the air. She was like a little child that was taken on a field trip, and currently enjoying the sights and sounds around her. "Big brother, I heard that Kylans are only native to the Silver Moon continent," Chiffon said. "Where did you find this black Kylan?" I tamed him when I was in the southern continent," William replied. "It had a very nasty personality, so I was forced to beat the crap out of him until he submitted to me." "Big brother is so amazing." "Yes. I am amazing." The black Kylan didn't show any kind of reaction to the two passengers in its back, and continued to fly in silence. The Kylan was the former guardian of the Silver Moon continent, Eneru, who was killed by the angry protectors of the Creator Empire. William took the Kylan's corpse and its soul, which was trapped in the altar inside the Helan royal palace, and used his necromantic power to bring it back to life as a servant. Supposedly, Eneru should have turned into an undead Kylan after William had brought him back to life. However, something happened within his sea of consciousness. The king chess piece glowed, and the black strand that had laid dormant within his spiritual world, lent its power to bring Eneru back to life, which allowed the Kylan to be reborn as a black Kylan. William wasn't aware that these two pieces of divinity had worked hand in hand to create a very rare mythical beast that was known for its power to wield black lightning. Raiden was the name William had bestowed to the newly born Eneru, who had no memories of his past life. The Kylan's personality was like a man with few words. It would only talk if William was the first to initiate a conversation. The Kylan's myriad core had been taken out of its body and given to Ella. She, along with the other goats that also received millennial cores from William from the beasts that were slain during the war, were currently hibernating in the Kirinter Mountains. Takam had volunteered to watch after them as they completed their evolution. William didn't know when the first members of his herd would wake up. Although he was going to miss them, he knew that this was also a good opportunity for all of them to grow stronger. He hoped that the next time they met, all of them would have taken on their human forms, and would come to accompany William on his journey through the central continent. "And that is Chiffon's current state inside the academy," Dicky reported through a communication crystal. "She's still as miserable as ever." "Is that so?" an arrogant voice replied. "Did you see something unusual? Like, an odd behavior from her?" "No, sir. I didn't see anything of the sort." "Very well. Continue to monitor her. Also, be mindful of the news and rumors that are currently spreading in the information network of the Creator Empire. No matter how unbelievable the news, make sure to take it down and report it to me as soon as possible. I'll see you in a week." "Understood, Duke Ryder." "Somewhere in the Demon Continent." "How peculiar. Based on the current timeline, she should have already gone berserk by now." Duke Ryder tapped his desk with a frown. "Did we make a mistake in our calculation?" The Duke activated the ring on his ring finger. "Sir, it is me," Duke Ryder said in a respectful voice. "I have called you to give a report." A beam of light shot from the ring and created a projection in front of the Duke. There, a man sitting on a throne made of skulls looked back at him with a serious expression. "Did that vermin finally lose control of her powers?" the man asked. "Did she devour the entire Silverwind Academy?" Duke Ryder shook his head. "No, my lord. According to the report, the vermin is still living off the trash in the garbage dump of the Academy. So far, aside from her miserable condition, her divinity remains dormant." The man frowned. This was not the report he was waiting for. According to the calculations of his warlocks, the sin of gluttony should have already gone berserk at this point in time. They had sent Chiffon to the Creator Empire in order to give them a surprise that they would never forget in their lifetime. The man sitting on the throne made of skulls was Chiffon's father. He used Emperor Leonidas' sentiment for Chiffon's mother to bring the little girl under his care. Chiffon's father readily agreed to send her daughter away, but gave Emperor Leonidas two conditions. First, Chiffon must be enrolled at the Silverwind Academy, and second, she would not receive any form of support from Emperor Leonidas' empire. Their goal was to let Chiffon's divinity go berserk and devour the entire academy. That way, all the members of the young generation, including countless prodigies and heirs of noble families, would all die a tragic death. This would weaken the Creator Empire for at least 20 to 30 years because of the loss of their young prodigies. This was a blow that no empire wanted to bear. If only Emperor Leonidas knew of the sinister plan that his former companion had prepared for him, he wouldn't have brought Chiffon back to his empire. Chiffon's father wanted to weaken one of the pillars that kept the peace of the central continent. If one of those pillars crumbled, chaos would once again prevail and the other major powers would swarm the Creator Empire in droves like vultures and hyenas, looking to eat some scraps from a dying wild beast. Well, no matter, the man sitting on the throne said after some time. If it doesn't happen now, it is still bound to happen later. At most, it will only take one more month before our plan comes to fruition. I agree, my lord. Duke Ryder nodded his head. I will continue to monitor the Creator Empire. Once I get wind of any good news, I will report it to you right away, my lord. Good. The man on the throne nodded. We've been experiencing a lot of setbacks lately. The plan to get broodmares in the southern continent also failed. My lord, have you heard about the news regarding the elves? I did. I already sent people to verify whether the news was true or not. The man sitting on the throne had heard a very interesting rumor from the southern continent. According to the information he got, the elves tried to conquer the human kingdoms, and failed miserably. Aside from losing millions of elves, their demigod, Sephiron, disappeared, and one of their guardian beasts, Eneru, died in battle. If this news was true, then it would greatly weaken the forces of the Silver Moon continent. The man still hadn't forgotten the time when he almost succeeded in conquering the elves and making them their slaves. It was quite unfortunate that a human hero stood before them and trampled his ambitions into the ground. The man rubbed his left arm that had been regrown using the power of dark magic. They had suffered greatly in that war. Due to the demon race's slow reproduction rate, they decided to capture humans who had strong magical and spiritual powers. They were to be their broodmares that would help them increase their numbers. Although the human empires and kingdoms in the central continent were always at odds with each other, they would set aside their grievances and unite if their peace was threatened. This was why the lord of the demonic continent didn't dare to capture the prodigies in the central continent, and just settled for the ones in the southern continent. Unfortunately, this plan had failed as well. In the end, they resorted to dealing with slave traders in order to get their hands on promising slaves that had the potential to give birth to powerful demons. Although slave trading was banned in some parts of the continent, there were still places where the underground auctions were held. The slave traders didn't care who bought their wares as long as the money was good. Some of them even formed a partnership with the demon race, who always bought their slaves in bulk. My lord, I have other things to report, Duke Ryder said with a smile. I heard from a credible source that the son of our nemesis is also in the Creator Empire. Son of our nemesis? The man eyed the demon duke with an appraising look. Are you talking about Maxwell's son with the Saintess? Yes, my lord. According to one of my business partners in the Creator Empire, the half-elf is currently enrolled in Silverwind Academy. A devilish smile appeared on the man's lips. Soon, he roared in laughter. Duke Ryder smiled as he watched his lord laugh to his heart's content. Fate really knows how to crack a joke, the man said after laughing. I can't wait to see the day when that girl, Chiffon, will devour everything, including that bastard's son. I wonder how the Saintess will react after hearing this news. The man laughed once again. He had long wanted to have his revenge on Maxwell and Arwen, but there had never been an opportunity. Now that the boy was inside Silverwind Academy, it was only a matter of time before his name would be added to the list of people that died due to his daughter's deadly sin. Chapter 558, You Also Carry a Sin. Big brother, is that the Tower of Babylon? Chiffon asked as she pointed in the distance. They had just exited an underground tunnel, and the first thing that they saw was a giant tower that extended towards the sky. "Yes," William replied. "If that is not the Tower of Babylon, I don't know what it is." The Kylan gave his silent agreement as he flew towards the tower. Their month-long journey was about to come to an end. Along the way, they visited several cities, and stayed for a day or two to rest. During their journey, Chiffon became more lively, suitable for a girl of her age. Without being constantly monitored and restricted by other people, the pink-haired girl's latent curiosity burst forth. William liked this change in Chiffon's personality. Although she still couldn't smile, the subtle rise at the corner of her lips were becoming more and more evident as time went by. The half-elf hoped that there would come a day where Chiffon would show him a smile that came from the bottom of her heart. A smile that will definitely melt the heart of anyone who would see it. "It's massive." Chiffon looked in wonder at the giant tower that was getting bigger and bigger. "I've never seen anything like it." William nodded in agreement. The tower was indeed very impressive, and in a way, intimidating. It was like a giant that was looking down on the entire world and daring everyone to climb to its highest floor. After an hour, the dark Kylan slowly descended from the sky. At the base of the tower, a massive city was built. This was where people of all ages and various ethnicities gathered to challenge the floors of the tower. There were a total of 50 conquered floors inside the Tower of Babylon. Those who managed to conquer these floors became the ruling families who governed it. One can even say that they were the kings of their own domain, and not even the emperors of the different empires held control over them. Because of the riches and other rewards that the tower offered, many would challenge it from time to time, in order to break past the 51st floor, which was deemed to be impossible to conquer. In the end, most people gave up and settled to work for the families who had already managed to conquer a floor of their own. The city at the base of the tower became the hub of these ruling families. This was where they sold, or auctioned off the products exclusive to their respective floors, and they profited immensely from it. The city was ruled by a council, which was composed of 50 members. Each of these members hailed from the family of each floor and worked together to create the city that was known as the City of Babylon. William landed a mile away from the city because the black Kylan was too catchy. He made Chiffon wear a black hooded robe, and a mask to cover her adorable face. Gilbert had been to the city before and he said that it was a place where slave trading was encouraged. William was a half-elf and Chiffon was half-dwarf half-demon. Both of them were good-looking, so their chances of getting captured were very high. William wasn't afraid of slave collars, because enslavement magic didn't work on him anymore. This was one of the benefits of wearing the collar of wisteria in the past. Celine confided that one of the reasons why she made William the collar was to prevent others from enslaving him. Since Celine and Celeste had also worn the collar when they were younger, they had also gained the immunity from enslavement magic. This was the preparation made by their grandfather to prevent the two girls from being enslaved and used for notorious deeds. The only concern he had was Chiffon's safety. He didn't know if one of the 7 deadly sins could be enslaved. He just hoped that nobody would be stupid enough to make their moves on her. Otherwise, William would erase them from the face of the earth. William and Chiffon had just reached the gate when the half-elf suddenly stopped walking. The reason? There was a familiar face looking at him with a smile. "Master?" William asked as he watched the beautiful elf walk towards him in a daze. Out of everyone he knew, he didn't expect to see Celine in the city of Babylon. "It is me," Celine replied before ruffling William's hair. "You've grown a little taller since we last met." Chiffon looked at the lady in front of her. She could tell that she was quite close to William because her big brother seemed happy to see her. "Master, why are you here?" "Because a bird told me that you would be here." "Hey!" William blinked as he looked at his shadow. "Second master." Celine covered her lips and chuckled. She was just teasing William and the latter didn't betray her expectations. "Oliver is not here," Celine commented. "He is watching over my room in the inn for me. I know that you have a lot of questions, but this is not a place for them. Come, I'm sure you're also tired of your journey. Celine didn't wait for William's reply before walking away. The half-elf glanced at Chiffon and the latter nodded her head. William followed Celine while he firmly held Chiffon's hand. The streets of the city of Babylon were quite crowded, and he was worried that he would be separated from her if he didn't hold her hand. Soon they arrived at an elegant-looking inn that was away from the main streets of the city. Celine led them to her room without a word. It has been a while, little Will, Oliver greeted William as soon as the latter entered Celine's room. Second Master, I hope you're doing well, William replied. I've been well. Oliver nodded his head. I just didn't expect that you would be visiting this place, so mistress, and I took a detour. Celine started to brew some tea, while William chatted with Oliver. Chiffon had already taken off her hood and mask and listened to their conversation with interest. This was the first time that she had seen a strange creature like Oliver that was half parrot, half monkey. After filling their cups with tea, Celine sat on the table and stared at William. It looks like your hobby of picking up girls in the dungeon still hasn't changed, Celine said. William lightly cleared his throat. Master. You're talking about a different protagonist. I don't pick up girls in the dungeon. Well, why don't you introduce me to your new companion? Celine asked. The beautiful elf had already sensed Chiffon's uniqueness. Even though she didn't have Oliver's eyes, she still had a spell that could identify a person's origins. Unlike the elves of the Silver Moon continent, Celine held no bias towards other races. She was even mildly surprised when she found out that Chiffon had demonic blood running in her veins. Master, this is Chiffon Valgremery, William said. Chiffon, this is my master, who taught me how to use Dar darts magic. Her name is Celine dy Wisteria. Chiffon stared hard at Celine, and the latter stared right back at her. The beautiful elf ignored the part where William was about to tell the little girl that she taught him how to wield dark magic. After what seemed to be an eternity, the little girl opened her adorable lips and made a statement. You are just like me, Chiffon said softly. You also carry a sin. Chapter 559, Are you ready for your last lesson? Part 1. You are just like me. You also carry a sin. Celine didn't deny or confirm Chiffon's statement. She just stared at the little girl with pity, as if she was looking at her past self. William tilted his head as he looked at Chiffon and his master. He clearly heard the pink-haired girl say that his master, Celine, was someone like her. Someone who also carried a sin. What is your relationship with my disciple? Celine asked in order to change the topic. Chiffon glanced at William before looking back at Celine. Big brother is my caretaker. He also provides me with food to eat. Caretaker? Well, I guess he is good at taking care of kids. Big brother has been very nice to me. He always lets me eat his long and hard. Master, what are you doing here? William interjected before Chiffon could finish her statement. Last time, Princess Sidonie suddenly bit him while the two of them were having an intimate moment together. When William asked why she did that, the beautiful princess said that it was punishment for letting Chiffon do things that she shouldn't have done. Naturally, the half-elf was confused about what his lover was talking about. After coaxing and asking the princess the reason for her bad mood, he found out that all of this came from a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding due to Chiffon's poor choice of words. William didn't want his master to misunderstand, so he decided to intervene before the pink-haired girl said things that might cause others to think badly of him. Celine gave William the "let's talk about this later" look before answering his question. Like I said earlier, I came here because I got wind that you were headed here for the tower, Celine answered. Don't ask who told me that you'd be here. It will just complicate things if you know who it is. William scratched his head. Clearly, his master had no intention of divulging her secret, so it was best to leave the matter alone. But, that is not the only reason why I am here, Celine stated. I came here to keep my promise and impart to you the last lesson you need to learn about dark magic. After that, I will go and see my sister, before going to the demon continent. Chiffon's expression changed after she heard the words demon continent. Her body unconsciously shuddered because that was the place of her origin. A place that she didn't want to go back to ever again. William digested Celine's words. The tone his master used was firm and carried no hint of hesitation. It was then when he also realized that there was a possibility that he wouldn't be able to see Celine again for a very long time. Part of him wanted to tell her not to go to a very dangerous place, but he also knew that his master wouldn't back down just because he asked her not to go. Celine was already an adult. She could make her own decisions and knew full well the consequences of her actions. "Master, we will see each other again, right?" William asked softly. Although there had been many twists and turns to their relationship as master and disciple, Celine was one of the important people in his life. He had learned a lot of things from her, and for that, he was forever grateful. "Silly boy, of course we will see each other again," Celine answered. "I'm an elf. I have a very long life ahead of me. It might take a few years before we see each other again, but we will definitely meet. Can you promise me that, Master?" "I promise. Now, tell me all the things that you have done ever since you left the southern continent. Don't omit anything, especially in regards to how you met Chiffon." William nodded his head and told his master the things that he had experienced in Silverwind Academy. How Emperor Leonidas snubbed him at first, and forced to enroll at the academy. His meeting with Chiffon, and also about the quarterly assessment test, and how he beat the old record. Celine shook her head helplessly and lit a candle for the future students of Silverwind Academy. The beautiful elf believed that none of them would be able to beat William's record for many years to come. After finishing his tale, Celine then informed him about what happened in the southern continent while he was away. Due to the increasing pressure from the citizens, and the neighboring dynasties and kingdom, King Noah had been forced to send the first prince, Lionel, to the guillotine and had him executed. Although he was angered by his son's betrayal, he only decided to imprison him for life. But, that didn't sit well with the citizens who had lost their children during the war. In order to prevent a civil war, King Noah compromised and steeled himself, sacrificing his firstborn to quell the masses. His second son, Prince Rufus, was exiled from the Hellan kingdom. According to Celine, the exiled prince decided to come to the central continent and enter the Misty sect. After losing his two sons, the king proclaimed Prince Ernest as the new crown prince of the Hellan kingdom. Not only that, he also announced the name of his future queen, which was none other than Princess Brianna of the northern tribe. A smile appeared on William's face when he heard that the two children had become officially engaged. He treated Brianna as a little sister, and he only had her happiness in mind. William knew that Prince Ernest really cared about her, so he wasn't worried that his little sister would get bullied. Even if she got bullied, so what? William would just return to the Hellan kingdom and give the new crown prince a good spanking, in order to avenge his little sister. Celine left out the troublesome part about the rebuilding of the Hellan kingdom, and other matters regarding the peace treaty that had been signed by the four ruling factions in the southern continent. She knew that none of these were important to William, so she didn't want to waste her time explaining about these things as well. "Well then, are you ready for your last lesson, Will?" Celine asked. "This time, I will not hold back. I want to see if you've been slacking off in your training after you left the Hellan kingdom." William patted his chest with confidence and gave Celine a confident smile. "I am ready, Master. This time, the one who will lose is you. Quite confident are we? Very well. Let's see if you can back it up." William held Chiffon's hand and reached out towards Celine. The beautiful elf held his hand firmly. Oliver entered Celine's shadow so that he wouldn't be left behind. A few seconds later, the scenery around them changed. William had taken everyone inside his 1000-beast domain where he and Celine would have their final match against each other. In the past, William always lost against the beautiful elf whenever they spared inside his sea of consciousness. But now, things were different. William was no longer the powerless child that Celine had tormented during their training. The red-headed teenager was even looking forward to having a match with her. What he didn't know was that Celine's final lesson wasn't an ordinary lesson. It was a lesson that he would remember for the rest of his life. Chapter 560, Are you ready for your last lesson? Part 2. William dried his hair after stepping out of the bathroom. This had always been his routine whenever he was about to train with Celine inside his sea of consciousness. He glanced at Chiffon, who was sleeping peacefully on top of his bed. They had eaten dinner 3 hours ago, and the little girl decided to sleep early because she was still exhausted from their journey. William, on the other hand, had an appointment with Celine, so he left the room after putting on a clean set of clothes. He left the villa and went straight to Celine's residence that he had built for her long ago. This residence included a laboratory where his master would conduct her experiments from time to time. William thought of all of these things as if they happened just yesterday. Now, Celine was going to a faraway place, and the half-elf didn't know when he was going to see her again. Although his master was being casual about it, he couldn't help but feel anxious at the thought that the two of them wouldn't be able to see each other again. He sighed as he knocked on Celine's door, announcing his arrival. "Master, I'm here. Come in." William entered the room and headed straight to the bedroom. There he saw a silver door where Celine waited for him. The door was the entrance of the special artifact, Eternity. This was where William had trained with Celine during his childhood. A day inside the artifact was only an hour in the real world. In order to maximize their training time, Celine would use this artifact, so the two of them could train for days, and even weeks on end, during their free time. He had done this countless times in the past. Even so, seeing Celine in her nightwear still made his heart beat a little faster than normal. William paused to admire the beautiful elf in front of him. It was as if he was imprinting this image in his head, just in case he forgot about her after years of not seeing each other. "What's wrong?" Celine asked as she looked at the dazed half-elf that was looking at her. "Come. Time waits for no one." "Yes, Master," William replied as he laid on the bed. He faced Celine that he had done many times in the past, and waited for the latter to press her forehead over his. "William, this time, don't hold back," Celine said as she moved closer. "Let's have a proper death match." "Understood, Master." "Synchronize." Sounds of explosion reverberated inside William's sea of consciousness. Their battle had been going on for an hour, and none had managed to deal a decisive blow at each other. Celine had lowered her rank to match William's, so they were almost on even ground. The beautiful elf's battle experience was higher, but William's countless skills made up for that gap. Icicle Realm. Darkness Domain. The two powers clashed and cancelled each other out. William shot several ice spears, fireballs, and wind blades, in Celine's direction, but the latter was too fast to be hit by his attacks. Void Arrow. William pointed his finger and a black arrow shot out from it. Celine sneered and fired her own Void Arrow. When the two arrows met, Celine's Void Arrow destroyed William's and continued its trajectory towards the boy. William evaded, and this time, he used his Dark Whip to lash out at Celine. As if waiting for that move, Celine also summoned a Dark Whip and attacked William. When the two whips clashed against each other, William's Dark Whip dispersed and Celine's Dark Whip snaked towards him like a living being. William raised his hand and several pillars of ice blocked the whip's advance. However, they were all destroyed by the power behind Celine's attack, forcing William to back away and escape its attack range. Even when two similar powers are used, that doesn't mean that they will just cancel each other out, Celine explained as she fired several dark beams in William's direction. "What you are using is simply dark magic, while mine is true dark magic. This is the difference between our powers." William summoned Stormacala and fired a barrage of lightning to counter Celine's magical attacks. Rumbling sounds were heard when the two attacks collided, but the half-elf and his master paid it no mind. The two fought each other in close combat as Stormacaller and Celine's death scythe struck each other, sending sparks flying in all directions. "Master, how can I get true dark magic?" William inquired when Celine distanced himself from him. Even though he asked a question, his magical bombardment didn't stop. After deflecting William's attacks, Celine smiled as he channeled her battle aura on her weapon. "You can wield true dark magic once you surrender yourself to darkness," Celine replied as she stomped her foot on the ground to propel herself forward. "You don't need to use this power because you are capable of wielding the power of all the elements. If you ever meet someone who uses true dark magic in the future, never use dark magic against them." Celine didn't give William any chance to reply as her scythe extended like a whip that was out to cut William in half. The boy wasn't fazed as he pointed his weapon in Celine's direction. "Quick shot war arts," William roared. "Grand bazooka!" A powerful lightning blast erupted from the tip of the spear, clashing against Celine's powerful attack. The collision between the two only lasted for a brief moment before William's attack overwhelmed his master's killer move. Celine dodged to the side by rolling on the ground. Before she could stand up and continue to fight, the tip of Stormacaller pressed against her neck. "I won, Master," William declared. He could have cut Celine's neck off her head, but he couldn't bear to do that. She was still his master, and William respected her. That's why he only settled to end their battle in a way that would not leave a bad aftertaste in his mouth. "Well done," Celine replied after half a minute. "You have really grown leaps and bounds since the last time we fought against each other." William removed Stormcaller's tip from his master's neck and extended a hand to help her up. "With this, I can go to the demon continent without worrying about you," Celine said as he patted William's shoulder. "I'm sure that you will do well even without me." William was her very first disciple, and probably her last. She was very proud of him, especially during the war in the southern continent. The half-elf had also taught her a lot of lessons in life. Because of William, Celine had changed her mindset and decided to face the things that she had been running away from all her life. This was why she wanted to see him first, before meeting her twin sister, Celeste. After she reunited with her sister, she would then travel to the demonic continent to visit her master. Celine was quite worried about her, and missed her terribly. William lowered his head, because he didn't want to let his master see his sad expression. "Stop acting like a spoiled child," Celine said as she used the tip of her finger to raise William's head. "Since you have beaten me fair and square, allow me to give you a reward." Celine moved her head closer. William's eyes widened when Celine's soft lips pressed over his own. "Happy birthday, William," Celine said with a smile. "Congratulations, today marks the day of your coming of age. You are now considered an adult, so it's time for you to become one." "Yes." When the clock struck 12, William officially turned 18 years old in the world of Hestia. The half-elf hadn't forgotten about his birthday, and even made plans to have a celebration in the Thousand Beast domain after Ashes and Princess Sidonie's classes ended in the afternoon. Before William could even react to Celine's words, the beautiful elf snapped her fingers. The surroundings changed, and they returned to the bedroom where the two of them laid facing each other. "This will be our last lesson together," Celine whispered in William's ears. She once again kissed William's lips before untying the string that bound her nightwear. "Although I feel sorry about your lovers, I will be taking your first." William looked at the beautiful elf that was looking down on him. He would be lying if he said that this possibility never crossed his mind when he was still young. Now that Celine was actively stripping him of his clothes, he knew that his master was serious. "Master, I think you're making a misunderstanding," William said as he cupped Celine's face. "It's not you, but me. I will be taking your first." William pulled the beautiful elf towards him and kissed her passionately. This was the start of their first night together. Not as master and disciple, but as a man and a woman who would be taking that next step in their relationship.